Hey y'all, I'm Asha. I'm the owner and pastry chef of Sundaze Gourmet Desserts, a small business in Memphis, Tennessee, and welcome to Sundaze with Asha. So today we're making cinnamon rolls. Y'all, when I was in college, I was carless. I needed my Cinnabon fix and the mall was entirely too far. So I've been on a journey to find the perfect cinnamon roll, okay? Stay soft without being warmed up. It's gooey in the middle, the perfect cream cheese. You guys, we have to make it. So come on, let's make it together. So as long as this task may take, it's really easy. There's 4 different steps, but I promise they're all gonna be worth it. So the first step is gonna be our tazong paste. It's a Japanese flour paste. What this is gonna do, it's gonna add a little bit more moisture into the dough so it's nice and soft, nice and supple. You get that really great texture. And then we're gonna move on to our actual dough. We're gonna include the tazong paste with our dry ingredients, a little bit of wet ingredients, and we're gonna let it sit, we're gonna let it rise, we're gonna let it do what it needs to do. The third ingredient is gonna be the filling, that rich, cinnamon, sweet, ooey, gooey filling that we all love. And the last step is our icing. Every good cinnamon roll needs cream cheese, right? So for step number 1, we're gonna make our tazong paste. This is gonna be our flour paste. It is a Japanese method, and it's just gonna enrich our dough. It's gonna make it nice, milky, buttery, flavorful. So you're gonna need 5 tablespoons of water, 5 tablespoons of whole milk, 3 tablespoons plus 1 teaspoon of bread flour. In addition to 1 egg, you're gonna need 6 tablespoons of melted butter and 3/4 of a cup of cold whole milk. Make sure it's cold. So I've already taken the time out to start our tazong paste. So in my pot, I have our milk, our flour, and our water. And we are just gonna let it get nice and thick, almost like a thick pudding. To that, we are going to add our melted butter. So you're just gonna wanna keep mixing it until it is nice and combined. At this point, you can take it off the heat. We don't need the paste to cook any longer. And to that, we're gonna add our milk. That's gonna be that 3/4 of a cup that we've reserved. And we're gonna start to mix that. It's not gonna come together at first, but keep going. So we're gonna whisk, 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 whisk. I told you guys, it's a little bit long, but it's definitely gonna be worth it. We're gonna get that egg ready as soon as everything starts to get nice and incorporated. Make sure all those lumps are off of the bottom. We don't want a lumpy paste, we don't want a lumpy dough, okay? It's coming together. Once you notice that there aren't any lumps on the bottom, you're gonna take your egg, you are going to crack your egg, and you're gonna whisk that in. This is another reason why you wanna take it off the heat. You don't wanna scramble that egg. Nobody wants scrambled eggs in their cinnamon rolls. Am I right or am I right? And it begins to thicken up. Now it is beautiful. Now we have our tazong paste. It's ready to go into our dry ingredients, and our dough making process will continue. So we're moving on to step number 2. This is the dough. This is crucial. So we're gonna need 4 cups plus 2 tablespoons of bread flour. You need bread flour. You cannot substitute it. Trust me, it's worth the find. You're also gonna need 3 tablespoons plus 1 teaspoon of dry milk powder, a tablespoon of instant yeast, 1/4 of a cup of granulated sugar, and 1 plus 3/4 of a teaspoon of kosher salt. So behind me, I have my bowl. I've already pre-measured all of my dry ingredients for our dough. We've already made our tazong paste, so let's mix it together. Let's get this dough going, y'all. So we already have our tazong paste. It's been sitting to the side. It's lukewarm. We're gonna go ahead and add that to our dry ingredients. You wanna add all of it. It needs to go in there. The ratio might look off, but trust me, it is what it is. With that, we're gonna take our rubber spatula. We're not gonna use our dough hook yet. And we're going to just mix our dough together until it becomes shaggy. All right, so we've reached the shaggy state. You wanna leave it alone. Put your spatula down, get your clean kitchen towel, cover it up and leave it for 20 minutes. Don't peek, let it rest. In the meantime, get everything else going. All right, so our dough has been resting for about 20 minutes. Nothing's happened yet, but this is where the magic happens. So to this, we're gonna now add our 1/4 cup of granulated sugar and our 1 3/4 cup of salt. We're gonna sprinkle it on top. And the reason we're doing this at this point is because the yeast has had time to kind of form. It's warm, it's ready to start eating. It's gonna eat at the sugar, and that's gonna cause our dough to rise. It's gonna feed our yeast, it's gonna create a beautiful dough. So you wanna put everything in your mixer, you wanna set it to a low speed, and we're gonna let it mix for 10 minutes. All right, y'all, so it's been about 10 minutes. We are gonna stop our mixer. We are going to check out our dough. It's looking pretty good to me. Oops, be careful. And at this state, we are going to just take it, kind of form it into a little ball inside of our bowl. We're gonna cover it with the towel. We're gonna set it aside for 45 minutes to proof, do its thing, and then we'll be ready to roll it all out and have our finished product. Okay, so our dough has been proofing for 45 minutes. It is time to roll everything out, get the filling spread, get them back in the oven, and then it's time for some cinnamon rolls. So our dough is punched out, it's laid out, and we're gonna begin to roll everything. You don't want it to be too thick, not too thin, so I'm gonna say about 16 by 18. I have a little tip for you guys. If you take your rolling pin and just roll it in one direction, it gets your dough into the shape you want it a little bit faster. You can even use your hand if you need to kind of stretch it out along the way. And don't be too critical on yourself. It doesn't need to be perfect. It's gonna get rolled up anyway. All right, so we have reached the point in which I'm liking the shape, I'm liking the thickness, the dough feels great. I'm gonna take our butter that has been sitting out for a while. It's a little bit melted, that is perfectly okay. I'm gonna mix it up with my little baby spatula, and I'm gonna start to spread it out evenly over the dough. Doing it this way is not how I learned in school. However, I have found that by doing a nice, thick, generous layer of butter, you get a really gooey inside. And I don't know about you, but I am not trying to eat a dry cinnamon roll. It's not my cup of tea or coffee, in my case, once I'm sitting down and enjoying such deliciousness. So on top of our dough, we have now finished spreading on that lovely layer of butter. This is gonna be the glue to our sugar and our cinnamon, essentially the filling to our cinnamon rolls. So after that, we now have our dry ingredients to the filling. We're gonna do 1 1/4 cup of light brown sugar. You're gonna need 2.5 tablespoons of cinnamon, 2 tablespoons of cornstarch, or 4 tablespoons of flour if you don't have cornstarch in the house, and 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt. So I wanna mix all of that together, get it all incorporated. You don't want it to be too salty in some places. You want the cinnamon evenly distributed throughout. You don't have to use a spoon, just use the tools that Jesus himself gave us. And then we're gonna do a nice sprinkle on top of that butter. Make sure it's even. You don't want anybody complaining about how you skimp them out on the filling of their cinnamon roll. I don't want to be skimped out on the filling of my cinnamon rolls, so that's that. And kind of just pat it down as you go, so that it gets nice and stuck to the butter. Once again, try to avoid that little 1/2 inch at the top so that that sticks when we're done rolling. Make sure your countertops are clean so you can just pick up and go if you need to. And now it is time to roll, y'all. So I never really understood the importance of how tight you roll your cinnamon roll. So this is what I do. I start here in the corner and I roll it really tight starting out. And you just go across. Keep it nice and tight. You're gonna see why when we begin to cut the cinnamon rolls. I don't know, for me, I think there's something about a bunch of spirals of this luscious filling surrounded by really soft dough that gets me. So if you ever need to check and gauge how tight you're rolling it, kind of pull back on it like this, just to make sure there's no gaps, there's no air, and you just do that along the entire roll. This is something that also took me a couple of years to get down. I would be so jealous of other people's, multiple layers of cinnamon. I just had to figure it out, but it definitely comes with practice, so keep that in mind, but it'll be equally delicious nonetheless. So once we have reached this point where we have our little bare end of dough, we're gonna fold it over and pinch. Just like that. You're gonna seal your dough, you're gonna seal your filling, you're gonna seal all the goodness in there so that none of it comes out while you're baking it. So now that we are all rolled up, it is time for us to cut our cinnamon rolls so they can proof and get baked. So I learned along the way that if you have some dental floss in your house, you get really clean cuts in your cinnamon rolls. So always use some nice dental floss. You're gonna take it, you're gonna find a nice middle point. I'm only making 6 cinnamon rolls today, so that's gonna be halfway for me. You loop it and you pull it. So now we have 2 different sides. So we're gonna continue to cut. I'm going to cut each one into 3s. Once again, we're gonna take our floss, kind of go underneath our dough a little bit, loop it like you're tying a shoe, pull it, and boom, you should have some really nice, clean cinnamon roll cuts. Beautiful. Do it from the other side. And even if you have to pick up your dough, if you can't quite get it, just pick it up, loop it, pull it. Or you can go under, loop it, pull it. You can dispose of your floss. And now we are ready to sit down in our pans. So now that we have our freshly cut cinnamon rolls, we are going to take our pan. You can use a glass pan, you can use an aluminum pan because they are the easiest to find. And we're gonna get them in the pan just on the bottom. You don't wanna lay them on the side, you want one of the swirls to sit up top. You can find the prettiest swirl, that is completely up to you. And we're gonna just fit them in here. Now give them some room at the top and in the middle, and you'll see why once they're done proofing. They're gonna be ginormous. I like to take these little end pieces that are a little fat and stick them right in the middle so they can't grow as much. Switch them around as you need. Our cinnamon rolls are all in the pan. It is time for them to sit aside for another 45 minutes. They're going to grow, they're gonna double in size. So we are on our last step. This is gonna be the final hurrah before we are finally able to taste our better than Cinnabon cinnamon rolls. So we need our cream cheese frosting. In our bowl, we have a paddle attachment right here to mix it up. But we're gonna do 2 ounces of our cream cheese, and we're gonna do half a stick of butter. So we're also gonna do a cup of powdered sugar. And over here we have a teaspoon of lemon juice, a tablespoon of milk, and half of a teaspoon of vanilla extract. So let's get started. In our bowl, we are gonna add our cream cheese, our butter, and our powdered sugar. Pour all of that in there. And we're going to let it mix until everything comes together. Start low. You don't want a big, huge powdered sugar mess going everywhere. It'll come together fairly quickly, just give it some time. Now remember, this is just gonna be a glaze. This isn't gonna be a frosting. You don't want it to be super, super stiff like if it was going on a red velvet cake. You want it to flow nicely, get in all the crevices, okay? This is what cinnamon rolls are about. You want them to be gooey without the cream cheese frosting, but this is gonna be the final just cherry on top. So at this point, I'm just gonna take some time to scrape the bowl down, scrape down the paddle. Anything that hasn't gotten incorporated, you want a chance for everything to get mixed together. You want a chance for everything to be one. All right, lastly, we're gonna add our wet ingredients, that lemon juice, vanilla, and milk that we were talking about. Pour it in there, get all of it in there. You need it all. Quickly put your mixer back down, let it go, and it'll come together and we'll be all ready. All right, it's nice and thin, but it's not just, you know, flowing like water. Still has a little bit of thickness to her. Scrape everything down, and we are ready to ice some cinnamon buns, y'all. Let's go. All right, I'm really excited. It's been about 45, 46 minutes since I've put our cinnamon rolls in here to get big. Let's see what they're looking like, y'all. They are beautiful. They are huge. They have definitely doubled in size. At this point, we are going to preheat our oven. All right, y'all, our oven is all set. It is time to throw these babies in there, and I'll see you guys in 20 minutes. Remember, 10, rotate 10. I'll see you guys then. Y'all, they are beautiful, okay? They're golden, they're hot, so make sure you have your towel or your mitt. Let's pull them out. Oh, and it smells so good. Beautiful and well worth the time. We're gonna let them cool for a little bit. We're gonna get that icing going, and we'll be able to smear it on top, and we'll be ready. We have finally made it to the very last step. Our cinnamon rolls have been cooling. They are nice, beautiful. Our frosting or our icing has been made. We're just gonna take some with our spatula, plop it right on top, okay? They should still be a little bit warm. That's okay. It's just gonna spread nicely over the top. And at this point, you can do what you want. Do you like a little bit of frosting? Do you like a lot of frosting? I like a lot. So I'm going to load them up. Make sure you get in all the crevices. Make sure every inch of your cinnamon rolls are covered to cream cheese perfection. You guys, we have made it. These cinnamon rolls are absolutely beautiful. I've had so much fun with you during this long process, but once again, well worth it. So, thank you guys for joining me. Sundaze with Asha. Make sure you follow me on Instagram and on Facebook. Sundaze, S-U-N-D-A-Z-E. Gourmet desserts on both. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.